50% of long-distance phone calls or phone bills. This was essentially a tax on the rich because only about 1,300 Americans had phones in 1898. Now, even though the Spanish-American War ended in 1898, this temporary tax was abolished in 2005. 2005, over its lifetime, this 107-year-old tax generated $94 billion more than 230 times the cost of the Spanish-American War. This is the kind of games that are played. You know, I hope this wasn't a false flag. You know, but frankly, when we have the government pulling the shenanigans that they're pulling, who can really say for sure? You know, the supporters of the government, they'll say, our government would never do anything like that. Well, that's what they said throughout history. That's what they said when Hitler used a false flag. That's what they said. I mean, history's repeating itself here. This is not rocket science, friends. This is not rocket science. Remember what the motto is of today.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste.
That's right.
And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before.
That you think you could not do before. Well, you know, I want to talk about this divide. I told you in the beginning of the program, we're going to send the second part of this program, and I'm going to try to give equal weight to progressives and to conservatives about this great divide in America, the ideological differences that's creating this divide. You know, I want to present this, and I want to let you, because you, the listeners, the people who listen to this program, you're a little bit smarter than everybody else. So I want to present both sides of it, and you decide for yourself who is on the side of right, who's on the side of wrong. You know, I think if you're capable of critical thought, you're going to see an argument for both sides. However, until we come to some sort of unity on something, then someone else is going to control us. We, the people, will not have power. We will not have any power as long as we're divided the way we are. And before we start this discussion, I want to make it perfectly clear that as we go through these things, if we as Americans are not able to set aside these little small differences and not let the powers that be rally us into conflict and division against each other, then we as a country are lost. We are going to become something fundamentally different than what you grew up knowing. This country is going to change. Is it going to be a good change or is it going to be a bad change? Some people say it's going to be a good change. Some say it's going to be a bad change. Personally, I think the system has worked very well, and we have gone through some very drastic changes. We went through the roaring 20s. We went through the burst of technology, the industrial age. We've gone through the 60s. We've gone through the progressivism that started, actually quite a while ago, has grown massively. We've gone through 2 world wars, conflicts, Vietnam, Korea. We've gone through all kinds of major changes and still been able to keep our fundamental core values. But now, for some reason, everyone says that since we're going through changes, that we need to change our fundamental core values. You know what? I think that you, the people, need to come to a realization that you've lost your power if we don't unite in some way or another. In some way or another. I'm going to take this short break, and then I'm going to present conservatism. I'm going to present liberalism and progressive. And talk about it honestly. I want to try to be intellectually honest with all of these points of views, only to allow you to make the decision yourself.
You're listening to W. Dean Shook, In Time Prophecy News and Current Events. Stay tuned. You can now hear our program on Stitcher Smart Radio. Stitcher allows you to listen to your favorite shows directly from your iPhone, Android phone, Kindle Fire, and more. It's on demand and on the go. Don't have Stitcher? Download it free today at Stitcher.com or in the App Store. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Up to
find his music on Amazon.com. He's a great musician. He does some wonderful stuff, and what he says in that song is absolutely true. It's time to make a change, my friends. We need to unite. There's got to be something we can unite on, that we can stand together on. Let's start with this progressives. The progressives differ in their assessment of the problems and how to resolve them. They generally share in common the view that government at every level must be actively involved in these reforms. The existing constitutional system was outdated, has to be made into a dynamic, evolving instrument of social change, aided by scientific knowledge and the development of administrative bureaucracy. At the same time, the old system was to be opened up and made more democratic. What did we get from that? When progressivism really started, we got the direct elections of senators, the open primary, the initiative of the referendum. It also had to be made to provide for more revenue. This is where we got the 16th Amendment and the income tax. Presidential leadership, according to them, would provide the unity of direction, the vision needed for true progressive government. All that progressives ask for, according to Woodrow Wilson, is permission. Permission in an era when development, evolution is a scientific word. To interpret the Constitution according to the Darwinian principle, all they ask is recognition of the fact that a nation is a living thing, not a machine. I want to share some remarks by Thomas G. West, who wrote a book, The Progressive Revolution in Politics and Political Science. He says that progressivism is transforming American politics. Well, what was that transformation? It was total rejection in theory and a practical rejection in practice. It was a practical rejection of the principles and policies on which America had been founded and on the basis of which the Civil War had been fought and won only a few years earlier. So when I speak of progressivism, I mean the movement that arose to real prominence in about 1880. Came up again in 1920. The content of the progressive conception of politics and of the contrast between what approach we should take to tradition stems from the founding. That it would replace what has always been the founding fathers' view. But let's first emphasize the difference between the assessment of progressivism that's presented in this book from the understanding that prevails among most scholars. Now, it's not much of an exaggeration to say that a few scholars, especially among students of American political thought, who regard the progressive era as having any lasting significance in American history, well, let me put it this way. Those who speak of the formative influences that make America what it is today tend to endorse one of the three main explanations. Some emphasize material factors like the closing of the frontier, the Industrial Revolution, or the rise of the modern corporation as incidental emergencies like wars and the Great Depression, which in turn led to the rise of the modern administrative state. The Industrial Revolution and all of these corporations, when all of these things came about, we needed to change the rules a little bit of the way that we initiated our laws, our policies, procedures, rules, and regulations, because we had new entities to deal with. But it didn't mean changing our Constitution or our Bill of Rights or the basic foundation. It just meant that as new things came up, that we needed to tweak the judicial system and the way that we did business, but had nothing to do with what the founders had done. Second is this rational choice